So today, September 24, 2025, like the legal aid lawyer said, she saw a police officer do a cutthroat, and a prisoner she was handling the case for died by the next day. So I think they're setting people up for lynchings. I normally come here, and since then they disabled this button. I used to have a stroller, and it's so hard for me to use one hand to open the stroller and push my cart in, and people will try to be bumping into me as I'm trying to get in. A number of disabled people can also get in because you have to use one hand to open the door, and it's hard to use the other hand to push it. So also, as I was in the bathroom, as I was trying to get out, the janitor came and almost bumped into me. So I've been under surveillance since I went to immigration prison. My mother was a U.S. citizen, and I was brought here as a kid, but I was arrested at JFK. They said children are not welcome in America. Then after I got released from immigration prison, I was living on Staten Island with my mother, and the police came and kicked my mother out of our house, basement apartment. Eric Garner said he was going to help me and my mother. At the place where I met him, Bay Street and Victory Boulevard, they went and choked Eric Garner dead. That's another sign that since they put me in immigration prison, they put me on ABS surveillance, they're watching me with a satellite camera. Even Barack Obama said they were watching Osama bin Laden with a satellite camera, and they were lying to the world that they couldn't find Osama bin Laden, but meanwhile they were watching him. They knew he was in Pakistan jungle hiding, and they sent a sniper team. After watching him for so many years there, they sent a sniper team to go and kill him. So they say they normally kill people they feel are a threat to the United States. So the only thing is, me and my mother used to speak about this police, that they brutalized us by removing us from our home. And since then, my mother even went on WB11 to say they're terrorizing us. So they're using they've militarized the police in America, and they're treating civilians like terrorists. Even this Trump said they should bomb a civilian boat from Venezuela. He said it has drugs, and they bombed it. They've bombed like 2 civilian boats from Venezuela. And a legal aid lawyer says she observed a police officer do a cutthroat sign as she was visiting a client, and by the next day the client died. They denied the client's medical help because the client had a history of health issues. And also they've been hiring some black Americans, Nigerian. They've been hiring some black Americans, ticket vendors for Statue of Liberty, to try to try to beat me up. And the first come try to bump into me, and I tell them, please don't try to rub your body on me. That's sexual harassment. I say, shut your mouth before I knock you down. So many of the black Americans they're hiring, so they're inciting violence. And otherwise, I see some of the black American women, they're always very, very close to the NYPD. And when I call the NYPD, that some of the black American men are trying to beat me up. I was born a male, I'm not a woman. I'm a Nigerian woman now. I used to be a man. So they're forming an alliance between the NYPD and black Americans, whereby they always try to beat me, so we're going to knock you out, nigga. So, and the police don't help me. And you legal aid lawyer, I think your name is Thomas, you said you observed and NYPD do this, and your client died. So please, there needs to be a class action lawsuit. You need to whistleblow, don't let them scare you. They were threatening me in 2019 that I was going to be gone. And then they framed me up as crazy, and the NYPD choked me. An NYPD police woman. She was like an African woman, but she talked with a New York accent on Bay Ridge and 4th Avenue. Around 2019, they used to send black American kids to be spitting at me all over Bay Ridge and 4th Avenue by the R train station. And I'll be running out of scatter. They will sometimes hold a metro pilot. They're about to lynch me. When I called for help, that policewoman, she was stationed in that station that day, Bay Ridge and 4th Avenue, and she wouldn't help me. It was like close to midnight, after midnight. She was at the talking booth. I was downstairs at the platform, and these black American kids surrounded me because I always charge my phone. They had a phone charger back then. They spent millions of dollars to install phone chargers. So I always charge my phone there. And my mother had just been killed. My friend Eric Garner had just been killed. And people were marching for Eric Garner because there was a 5-year statute of limitation. They killed Eric Garner in 2014, and by 2019, there was a 5-year statute of limitation to charge Eric Garner killer. Obama had already put an investigation on the Eric Garner killer because it was really shocked that on Staten Island, the state prosecutor messed up the case, didn't call me as a witness, didn't call other witnesses, so the grand jury dismissed the case. And Obama is a lawyer. I guess he was shocked. Like, there's a video of the chokehold, and how can the case not pass through grand jury? So Obama set up in 2014, asked the FBI to investigate it. But Obama was out of office by 2019. Trump was in office, and I believe Trump's friend Bernard Kerik, that was the head of Homeland Security, when my mother called the NYPD terrorists on TV, WB11 national TV, 2010 for taking her home. I believe Bernard Kerik heard the TV show what my mother said, and since then he went and told the media that police in America deal with all kinds of people, some sore losers in the basement apartment with their child, with their son. I think he said that. Said that law enforcement in America has to do with all kinds of losers like that. I think we're just trying to shut back at my mother. And since then, I went to Trump's hotel in 2011, Taj Mahal, New Jersey. Somebody told me, that New Jersey has cheap hotels and stuff. And when I went there, they sent the police to kick me out of the hotel. So I recorded everything. And I came back to New York. I told every governor about it, and I have a problem with the NYPD always evicting me everywhere I go. And even in New Jersey, anywhere I go. I told me was going to help me was a civil rights activist. And they choked him dead, just like you. The person that choked him dead on July 17th. July 8th is my birthday. I used to go to a Black American church and Bishop Jordan Ministries. And he said July 17th is like July 8th. He said 8 is a good number for God. God loves 8. Anything you do on the 8 is always successful. So it's a divine number. But he said God likes the single digit numbers like 8. And 5, I'm going to get back to the 5 part. He said God likes the single digit number like 8, and he said but if a number is double digit like 17, God will add 1.7, still regard it as 8. So I was ordered 8 guest surveillance, and they went on July 17th where I just met every governor on Bishop and Victor Bola, and choked him there. So they were laughing, just like you, liquid lawyer. I believe your name is Thomas. You said you saw them do like this, and the next day your client was dead. Yes, these people would kill people, assassinate people, and try to gaslight the witness. So the 5-year statute of limitations for federal crime was expiring in 2019. And I was still here. My mother was dead already. I own daughters, Bologna, Florida. My mother was they were part of an inheritance scam gang, and somebody was giving them the lead to kill my mother, and even my mother's daughter's Flora husband, Ayinde, would try to knock my mother out with a punch. It was a U.S. military guy. It's a Black American, but his name is Ayinde. Would try to punch my mother. And my mother said that this guy was trying to scare her to death in Pennsylvania because my mother couldn't live in New York anymore. She said, anyway, she used to stay in a shelter by the ferry here. And she said, people try to beat her up in the shelter and stuff. So she ran to Pennsylvania. She was like, since she called the NYPD terrorists, they killed my friend at Ghana. They were taunting my mother. People tried to beat her up everywhere. So she ran to Pennsylvania thinking nobody would be able to get her there. And the thing she noticed was our children were already compromised. Our children were born in America. They lived in Pennsylvania. So one of the children, Flora, the husband was a U.S. military guy. I was trying to punch my mother. So my mother ran to the other daughter, Bolale. That one was on drugs. And so that one put poison in my mother's food, counterfeit poison, and my mother would eat that food and would start having bloody diarrhea. Her heart would start congestion like this. So my mother came back to New York on the Greyhound bus. On the way, she was feeling that she was about to have a heart attack and die, but she didn't want to go to Pennsylvania hospital. She was like, those daughters have been in Pennsylvania since they were a child. They have friends there. They went to college and stuff and work in the hospital system. So one of the daughters was moving with a bag there. So my mother on May 13, 2015, she decided to come to New York, to come to the hospital. So she didn't want to use the hospital in Pennsylvania. She believed New York has more sophisticated hospital. So as soon as she got on the Greyhound bus, the bus got from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, and she said she started having the more severe symptoms of a heart attack. So she brought her aspirin and started eating it, and she informed the bus driver, like, look, please pull over, call the ambulance. She believed she was going to die. So the bus driver pulled over, called the ambulance, but my mother kept eating aspirin, and she said the aspirin started working. So she told the bus driver she feels a little better, keep driving to New York, because she doesn't want to get stopped in New Jersey by the border to Pennsylvania. She doesn't want them to take her back to Pennsylvania, where those daughters can come and meet her and tell the doctor to, kill her, like you, legal lawyer, observed that the NYPD female officer did like this to your client, and the next day your client was dead. So my mother eventually got to New York, Greyhound station, and they took her to a Jewish hospital, I believe, Montana. I don't know the name of the hospital, but there was Ebola, so a lot of private hospital didn't want to deal with the Africans. They thought Africans were liabilities. So a lot of Africans around that time, May 13th, 2015, there was a Ebola outbreak in Nigeria, all over Africa. So if they feel you're African, the private hospital will ship you to Bellevue. So they shipped my mother to Bellevue, which is against the law. It's called MTELA law. It's a federal law. Emergency travel. It's like you can't transport a patient that is in severe crisis from hospital to hospital. Say private hospital used to do that in America. They don't want the liability because black patients don't really have insurance or money. So they rather ship them to the government hospital where they are more likely to be killed and experimented on. And the government has statute of the government has guardrails to lawsuits. Like if you're going to sue a government hospital, like New York City hospitals, like Bellevue, you got to file a notice of claim within 3 months of the death or the occurrence, and then go to the hearing. So a lot of blacks wouldn't know, have the legal knowledge, so they cut them out. They can't file a lawsuit. A private hospital, you can sue them like within 2 years and 6 months for medical malpractice. So the private hospital in New York, so I guess a lot of them are shipping the black patients to Bellevue, especially so that when they feel they are more live, they pose a liability risk. Because at that time there were Africans catching Ebola all over Africa, but my mother didn't travel. She was a U.S. citizen, naturalized U.S. citizen from Nigeria, but she hadn't traveled to Africa in a long time, many years. So she was safe, but I was a woman, a white American nurse, had just came back from Africa, and I think they quarantined her immediately in Ohio somewhere, went and locked her up. Even though she wasn't showing any Ebola symptoms, she was just like a medical doctor, working for an organization. And I think they quarantined her, and she was a white woman, and the press was like really concerned, like, just lock up somebody like an animal, especially when she wasn't showing any symptoms of Ebola. But they were like, we're just kind of be cautious, like Africa is like a death zone, so we're taking drastic actions. So even my mother didn't be to Africa in like a decade or so. Just by being African, she had a U.S. passport. They went and locked her up in Bellevue, transferred her from like Mount Sinai Hospital, which was nearer to the Greyhound station. So, I put her in Bellevue, and she didn't know how her daughters in Pennsylvania were able to locate her in that hospital. So my mother said within days that she was in Bellevue Hospital, the daughters showed up. And she hadn't invited them, she didn't want them there. And this is, which is a violation of HIPAA. There's a federal law called HIPAA that you cannot try to access a patient's information or whereabouts without the patient's consent. It's a crime. And the daughters went to that hospital, and they were trolling my mother because my mother talks with an accent, but they speak American English. They've lived in Pennsylvania for so long. So they were telling the hospital to lock my mother up in the psych ward. Because me and my mother was suing the NYPD at that time. So, so I put in a court complaint that when the NYPD came to evict us from my home, they didn't have a eviction order, but they said Bloomberg told them to evict people from basement apartment. So my mother said she's not going to leave without an eviction order. And I said, if you don't leave, we're going to frame you up. We're going to lie that you're crazy and call the ambulance to take you to the psych ward. Or, lie that you attacked us and locked you up in the prison. So my mother was starting to have a heart attack symptoms. She was like, wow, why would you frame me up as crazy? And so my mother started having heart attack symptoms. And so I said that scared her because my mother was afraid of being locked up, as an elderly woman and stuff. That would make anybody panic, because she used to work in the hospital system, and she said they don't treat people crazy good in the U.S. hospitals in New York, and old people good. So she was afraid of being incarcerated. So I said that shocked her to almost give her a heart attack. So my mother said address in Pennsylvania were reading my lawsuit papers online, through PACER, whatever federal court system. I filed it in Brooklyn Federal Court in 2013, but by 2015, my mother was living with her daughters in Pennsylvania City, but reading my lawsuit papers. And they said people do copycat of crime. So what the NYPD did to my mother to scare her to death, our daughters, when they heard my mother was in the hospital, they were like, fine. So they quickly came to New York and told the hospital to lock her up in the psych ward. And my mother said they were trolling her, making her look like crazy, trying to aggravate her, So my mother said they were trying to kill her early so they can blame it on the NYPD, so they can get part of the money. My mother said that Bolali was into trouble. And fast forward to now, like last year or so, I was complaining on the train that please, I need a mailing address. I don't have a mailing address. I don't have a lawyer. I'm trying to file lawsuit against the NYPD. So I was telling people on the train, please help me contact the city hall to create a mailing address for people that are homeless. And all of a sudden, this Eric Adams is a black American mayor, and there's a tension between black Americans and Africans. There's some black Americans don't like Africans, so we sold their ancestors to slavery, and they want us to suffer. So they always try to block us justice. A lot of the black American lawyers have been approaching, wouldn't help me. The only black American that wanted to really help me, Eric Garner, was killed immediately by the police. And they said there was a black American woman that called the police to where Eric Garner was. So there's trouble where Eric Garner was, that the police should respond. And that woman immediately, Eric Garner was scared. They said she resigned from the NYPD and she ran to Atlanta. And even nobody tried to arrest her. They said so those police officers that killed Eric Garner said they were just minding their business when this black woman in the NYPD said they should respond to trouble where Eric Garner was. And they said apparently there was a fight that broke out near Eric Garner, and Eric Garner was trying to stop the fight. And then the police said they came to that area because of the fight, and then they observed Eric Garner selling cigarettes. They said they weren't after Eric Garner at all. So it was like a cover-up. So they were trying, it's like they set up everything like this so that they can beat the criminal charges. Like there was no way they had a premeditation to kill Eric Garner, because and the family said another suspicious thing the police officer did was immediately they killed Eric Garner that same day. They released a press report because somebody was recording. They weren't expecting somebody to get to the recording. So that's another sign of somebody got the information earlier, because usually people don't record stuff around that time. Even now, when I'm getting attacked by the police, nobody really records anything. I'm the only one that used to record everything. And in that area, I went there, I was recording prior to Eric Garner being killed some weeks earlier. I went to that area, I was recording Eric Garner while he was talking to me, so he was going to help me. And then they said his friend also started recording him as they were about to kill him. So that's kind of suspicious, people don't really record stuff. I'm the only one that used to record stuff like that. But I'm not saying, So it seems, there's word on the street that they were going to kill Eric Garner. So people started marching right away. The video came out. So I said the same day they killed Eric Garner, his family said that was one of the suspicious things they noticed right away. The NYPD, like conscious of their guilt, said Eric Garner died of asthma. Nobody choked him. We didn't have the chokehold and whatever. And his family said nobody knows Eric Garner has asthma because under the EPA law, your health information is private. So they had already studied his medical files. They said, the hospitals in America are compromised. That, you can easily just bribe the workers in the hospital and get any patient's file. So the family was like, it seems they were researching everything about Eric Garner before they killed him. Because why would they know he already suffers from asthma? And they put their, like UMT and legal aid lawyer observed to do this to your client, and your client died by the next day. So it's like, and they used the chokehold to kill Eric Garner. So it's like they already knew he was vulnerable to be killed by chokehold. So please, lawyer from the legal aid, you're very intuitive. That's a good thing. So please don't let nobody scare you. Please join with me to file a class action lawsuit about the lynching, because under the federal statute that Kamala signed when Biden was still president, like in 2023, there's the Anti-Lynch Act that said, any group of people that try to kill somebody, whether the police or whatever, they can be charged under the Anti-Lynch Act. And so it doesn't even you don't have to show a racial animus. It can just be they acting silly. So the fact that a black American woman was involved, they might just try to take Eric Garner to threaten his life and send him into asthma, send him to the hospital. Maybe they didn't even try to kill him. They said there's a black American police officer involved. They sent the police to where Eric Garner was. They said some black Americans don't like Africans. And they said this Eric Adams knows the Eric Garner family. And since he became mayor, he's been taunting me with his power. I'm always getting jumped by black Americans, and the police won't help me, and the police will be very close to the black Americans. And I'm like, okay, what is going on? You're here to enforce laws. Why are you befriending these black Americans? A lot of them that taunt me in this area, and when they try to beat me up, they're going to knock you out. You're going to go down, nigga. You're going to die, nigga. You what? You're going to die soon, nigga. We're going to knock you down. And they keep saying that to me. Even yesterday I was here. I said, you're dying soon, nigga. And and they taunt me everywhere. When I go to the Dwayne Reed because I have anemia. So I'm always buying all this because because of my anemia, sometimes I feel so tired I can't even get up. So I'm always buying sodas with vitamins. I'm always buying, so anytime I go to the to the Dwayne Reed, some of the black Americans will follow me. Say, get out of the store. Nigga, get out of the store, And they were trying to jump me. Said, we're going to kill you like Jordan Neely. Like Jordan Neely was a black American, said he was being harassed and he was telling people on the train that he's tired, and the white guy snuck behind him and choked him dead. They're in a penny, and the white guy got $5 million for his legal defense, people were doing it, and Jordan Neely only got $40,000. They say it always happens like that. If you kill a black person, you get a lot of money. A lot of whites have been killing blacks. They'll get a lot of money, but the black person wouldn't get nothing. So I've been trying to raise money for my dead mother, and I talk on the train. I don't know, I tell people on the train, everywhere online, and I to investigate my dead mother's case and my case, and nobody's donating nothing to my Cash App. My Cash App is NYC Homeless. So I'm wondering, could there be a game being played whereby they're sending the money back to the donors, and if you so, they're trying to obstruct justice? Because even when this Eric Adam, I guess it's on my dead mother, when I was on the train, like last year, saying people should help me contact the city of New York, and that they should need to have a free mail service for homeless people, that without a mailing address, you can't get nothing done. So I'm trying to get, because the police had just choked me in 2019, took all my green card, my work authorization, so I don't have any IDs since 2019, all my IDs. So I'm trying to reapply for my green card and stuff, that they should bring a mail service to New York free for homeless people. And then this Eric Adam responded right away, created a mail service, but calls it Go Locker. To make me remember my dead mother. And he said his own name is now Esther. He's the new Esther. My dead mother's name was Esther. So that means, they said this Eric Adam is close to the FBI. He's been working for the NYPD since 1980s. So he developed friends with the FBI. So I guess he was able to, one of his friends, Beauty Commissioner Aldrich, who is now in police trouble also for bribe or whatever. I think they're trying to prosecute him. So he's been telling the prosecutor that this Eric Adam has friends with the FBI since the 80s, and they always let him know who's under surveillance, and they always release the surveillance information to Eric Adam. And if you're his friend, he will tell you, it's really hard right out there. Hide your phone, store your phones away, don't say nothing on the phone. So it will meet with you in private to let you know. So it's like he's helping his buddies, and someone like me as an African is just mocking me. So I guess, they've been able to see that my mother's daughters, Volani and Flora, came to New York from Pennsylvania specifically to lock my mother up and kill her. Just like when I put in my lawsuit papers, I just found that my mother almost had a heart attack when the police said they were going to frame us crazy if we don't exit the house as a victim without a court order. So it's just so much going on. And so now back to the July 17th. So they said the kid I got on July 17th was like my birthday, July 8th, because I used to go to the Black American Church in Manhattan here, Upper Manhattan, Bishop Jordan Ministries, and he used to say, God likes the number 8, that anything you do on the 8 will be successful. So, but any other number that you can add up to 8, like 17, so God likes that too. Says God considers 8. And the kid I got on July 17th, which is like my birthday, 1 plus 7 is 8. And they gave the Eric family $5 million, and since then they're not interested in helping me. And the Eric Adams knows the Eric family and knows how sharp things, so they formed this clique. Whereby, as an African, I don't get nothing. It's just sexual harassment. People will be following me around, and have their children call me Dada Mama. I'm like, no, don't call me Dada Mama. I say, under the New York law, involving any child in a sexual performance is a crime. They said a kid has just been arrested in upstate New York. It was a kid it was like a 16-year-old, and it was a male kid, but it would pretend to be a female and email his friends to send him their naked picture, and they would send him their naked picture. And we just do, and then we would now tell them to send him money. It says and they would think they're talking to a girl, so they arrested him for extortion and including a child in sexual performance. So, there's the first precinct, and it's a bathroom there, Pier 25. Anytime I go there, they have Jamaican nannies. They'll bring little children and try to, use the little kid. They would go into the bathroom and leave the kid you know, just to block the hallway. So I always call the police, like, look, you can't abandon a child in the bathroom or with us child abandonment. And then the police will tell me, stop complaining about everything. You know, you don't have to complain about everything. Just ignore it. I'm like, no, they can't be abandoning their children around me. Then soon after that, they would be bringing children to be calling me dada mama. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to have a sexual relationship with your parents, so I'm in no way your dada mama. So they can charge those people with trying to use a child for sex performance. Then Caban came into that area. And then they started having kids white kids throw snowballs at me. When I'm going to use the bathroom at Teardrop Park, I have diarrhea, so they always incite violence against me in every bathroom. In Manhattan, even in Brooklyn Skating Park, on Prospect Park. Anytime I try to use the bathroom there, they will call the police on me that we don't want you anybody. They will ban me from every bathroom. You know, anytime they try to sexual harass me somewhere, and I say, no, don't try to sexual harass me in the bathroom, they will call the police on me, so I no longer welcome in the bathroom. You know, like a real abuser, they'll punish me right away. So as soon as I got and became mayor, you know, they were attacking me aggressively in the bathroom. They would even lie on me that I'm stealing their stuff in the bathroom. I'm like, excuse me. You know, they say, you know, I come there to steal. I'm like, how am I able to steal your stuff? They say, we always leave our stuff in the bathroom. And when you come, the stuff will disappear, and we come back, and people tell you you're the one that stole it. I'm like, oh, wow. And, you know, and they were trying to frame me up, because at that time, there was a Spanish woman accused a black boy of stealing a phone in Manhattan hotel. You know, and he started beating, she started beating up the black boy, and then the Uber driver came and said, madam, you left your phone on the Uber, here's your phone. You know, and then the woman ran away. So the father of the boy told the police, told the press, and she ran to California, and they got an order to bring her to New York. Then why would you be beating up a black boy, saying he stole your phone, that he stole it from your pocket, whereby you left and even the hotel called the police right away. You know, without evidence. And they were beating up the black boy. You know, she was beating up the black boy, and then there was like a huge hotel in Manhattan, and then the police arrived, they wanted to arrest the boy, and then the Uber driver arrived also. I said, madam, like at the twilight hour, to save the boy's life, the police arrived and the Uber driver arrived. I said, madam, you left your phone in my Uber, and gave it to her, and then she ran away, fled the scene, went to California to hide. But the boy's father informed the press, and they brought her back on, and she wouldn't come back. They extradited her from California. So the Spanish woman's case was going on. So I went to use the bathroom at Pier 25, and then as soon as I get off the bathroom, this Spanish woman came. They said, you know, I want your phone. I'm like, excuse me, this is my phone. You know, I said, you know, and she was like, you know, I left my phone. She looked like she's Spanish also, or she may be a light-skinned black American mulatto, you know, interracial black and white. And she was like laughing, and she came with a huge black American guy, huge muscular guy. I just became mayor, and he said he should be locking up homeless. In the first year I became mayor, he said, you know, so I was trying to get the police to arrest me, because the police had already arrested me, locked me over the psych ward, stole my green card, and choked me, almost killed me on July 23rd. I used to go to a black American church. I was under immigration surveillance, FBI surveillance. I just came out of immigration prison, Bishop Jordan Ministries. And he used to say number 5 is a very important date for God. The number 5 is 2 plus 3 is 5. So 5 is a number of favor. He said God don't like double digits. So if your number is 23, 2 plus 3 is still 5. So if the day of the month is 23, it's a good day to do anything. And on the 23rd, the police came and arrested me, choked me near this train station on July 23rd, 2019. And was choking me almost there. People appeared, some bystanders saw what was happening, and they came and started recording and told the police, stop, and they were echoing the police. You know, and I was kind of shocked how the bystanders arrived quickly. It's like some people had already got word that the police was going to kill me that day. Because people don't be recording stuff. Except my friend Evergana is dead, and as I was being choked on July 23rd, 2019, so some people started recording it. I'm like, wow, at the stroke of the bell. I'm like, you know, the person that recorded it sent me the email later. Later, the person that recorded it saw me in the neighborhood after I came out of the psych lockup. I was there for 7 days. They stole my green card and everything. After I came out, the person said, I remember you. You were the one that was being choked the other day. So give me your email. I said, okay, I'm like, thank you for being so observant and knowing who I am. Because I didn't even know the person. So I came back to the neighborhood. And immediately I came back to the neighborhood, the person came around me and said, like, I remember you. You were the one being choked. The other day you were crying. I said, yeah, yeah. So go and follow Lost right away. I'm going to send you the video. I was like, okay, thanks for looking out. Yeah, she told me her name is Maria or something like that. It's like an Islamic name. I'm like saying thanks for looking out. But since then, I've been having people making fun of my Christianity. And they've been telling me in this neighborhood, we're going to kill you. And because when my mother was killed, I said I wanted to pray for a resurrection. And they laughed at me at the medical examiner's office, said I was wacky. They even called me Michael Jackson. Said Michael Jackson is here for the dead mother. You know, and they told me, no, we don't allow prayers. We don't believe in resurrection. Because when my mother died in 2015, a Nigerian prophet, who's like, they call him the African Nostradamus, he said God told him that in 2015 some people are going to die, but God, death is not going to be final. God will raise them from the dead. So if any of your family died in 2015, he said pray for them, and he was praying that prayer on YouTube. His name is Prophet Joshua. They removed that prayer from YouTube and banned it from YouTube. That is, he said it's too extreme. It's used too extreme, and it's now dead. So as soon as he put out, say January 1, he said this is the year of resurrection, 2015. He said anytime, he said good morning. He said God said that's how you know that the sign is he said the morning. He said God, something's going to happen in the morning. No, there's going to be resurrection after that. So God in January 2015, he said this is the morning here. God told him watch out. Something's going to happen in the morning. It's going to be a good thing. And there's going to be a resurrection. They killed my mother in the morning in 2015. May 20 in the hospital. And I went there and I told them, look, there's a prophet that said something's going to happen in the morning, that this is a good morning here. I said, let me see her. I want to pray for her. And the last time at the medical center, so we don't believe in God. We don't believe in Jesus. I said, honor the right to sepulchre. My mother wanted to be prayed for because I told her when she was alive that this prophet Joshua said 2015 is a good morning year. People are going to wake up from the dead. And he prayed a prayer. He said he was praying the spirit on YouTube. He said, pray this prayer. Anytime somebody dies, pray this prayer. And he was praying. I was praying the spirit. So I told my mother about it. She was like, that thing may be real. She was like, that thing may be real. Because she told me she's been dreaming, seeing herself dead. And she said when she was in Nigeria also, her friend died and was in the mortuary. She met that friend in New York. That friend is Nigerian. And she said that friend went back to Nigeria. And then she said one of her daughters in Nigeria killed her. She said, killed her for whatever purpose. And that woman's name sounded like one of my mother's daughter's name. And then my mother said she met that woman in the church in Nigeria. And she was just sitting down in the church one day in Nigeria in the 1990s. And that woman came to my mother and said, excuse me, you look like an Esther I know from New York, in New York. And my mother was like, yeah, I'm Esther from New York. And that woman said, look, do you remember me? My mother's like, no, I don't remember you. I'm so, I was in New York with you. And my mother's like, wow, oh my goodness, how did you recognize me? And my mother was like, and she told my mother, you haven't changed, you've always been changing your look. I guess the woman got fatter, and so my mother didn't recognize her. So, but that church called the Synagogue Church, people always go there if they have serious issues. Because nobody really likes that church in Nigeria. They said that guy is a devil and he's trying to lure people into the demonic kingdom. So, because he always does miracles, he raises people from the dead. And some of the pastors in Nigeria, they call them the Pentecostal Association of Nigeria, PAN, or something like that. They said that guy is a devil. They don't believe in him. He's just trying to lure people to the demonic kingdom. So people only go there when they have very serious issue. So my mother asked that friend from New York, who's Nigerian also, that why are you in this church? What kind of serious issue brought you here? And the woman said, that she was in another part of Nigeria. She wasn't even in Lagos where the church is. She was in the eastern region, and she died. Her own daughter poisoned her also, and she died. And she was in the mortuary for many, many months. Her family didn't have enough money to bury her. And she said, while she was in the mortuary, one of her family members was in Lagos. He comes to that church, and he came to inform the church pastor, and they gave him some special prayers that she go and pray. that God would resurrect the woman, and they traveled to the east from Lagos, and they prayed over the dead woman's body, and the woman came back to life. And my mother said she was really terrified when, when the woman told her she came back to life. I said, and the woman would come and sit next to my mother, rub her body on my mother's body. And my mother was like, that is strange. Like, is God marking her for a miracle also? And, she didn't really understand why. But she said she started avoiding that woman, and she doesn't want to be speaking to a ghost. Like, that, she was like, that story sounds too unbelievable. But my mother believes it's real because, a lot of miracles happen in that church. Even white Americans go to that church from America. And in 2014, after the police killed my friend Gunner, they set my house on fire. I rented a room near where they killed Gunner. I rented a room in the house number 219 Canal Street, Staten Island, New York 10304. And before they killed Gunner, on March 19, they set that house on fire. And there were little kids in the daycare center near to the house. They had to take them out in a stretcher because the smoke was everywhere. And at that time, I was trying to sue U.S. immigration because I was 19 years old when my mother brought me here. Under federal law, even a 19-year-old is considered a child because federal age limit is 21 for a child. And when I got, even though the U.S. has signed the Family Reunification Act, they're not going to separate children from their parents. My mother had a green card at the time in 2000, and she went to Nigeria and bring me here. And as soon as we arrived at JFK, they took my passport and took my visa and put me in deportation proceedings. They call it removal proceedings then. They were like, and they lied that this kid arrived from Nigeria without a visa. And as at the time we arrested this person doesn't have a visa, and I had a visa. And I was trying to tell them under the Family Reunification Act, the U.S. signed, said the U.S. wouldn't separate mother and children. And they didn't give a damn. And they locked me up at JFK. I was 19 years old. Took my passport, my visa, So my mother ran to the Nigerian embassy to inform them. Because at that time, my mother brought me here. She had to quickly go call to Nigeria to bring me. Because my father was abusing me in Nigeria terribly. He was starving me. My mother left me when I was 16, and she had to return by the time I was 19 to get me because I was starving and stuff. And she went to the police in Nigeria to make a report. And they told her the Nigerian law allows child abuse. And that... But in cases of abuse like that, the Nigerian government will work with the victim to resettle them in another country. So they were like, it's a good thing that my mother already is based in America, and they told my mother to take me to America, and that the Nigerian government will provide me welfare, make sure I'm okay in America. So because of the Nigerian law allows child abuse, they can't arrest my father, and they will have to wait till he kills me. That's the only time they can charge him with murder. Even then, he could claim, he killed me just enforcing the Nigerian custom of child abuse, and he would get away with it. So the police, it was Area G prison. He said he's so sorry. They said, take care of your child to America, and he gave my mother his business card, and said, said the Nigerian government would help. And as soon as I arrived in JFK, they arrested me and said, children are not welcome here. So my mother went to the Nigerian embassy, said, look, the police officer, Area G prison, I believe it's Area G, maybe Area F, I don't really remember that well. He said, either Area F or G prison in Nigeria. And I gave the document to the immigration immediately. The child abuse report from the Nigerian, I given to the Nigerian police, showing they were already met with me on the same matter and told me to come. And I told the U.S. immigration, you can go to my file number 7795462 in case anything happens to me. On July 2000, to show, I told the U.S. immigration at the airport everything. That my father was abusing me, and the Nigerian police told me to come here and wait and resettle me here as a crime with victim witness. So until the Nigerian law changes or whatever, I said for my safety, I should stay here permanently with my mother, and they resettled me here. But when I arrived at the JFK, they arrested me, and the Nigerian government said they can't help me. They're sorry. They don't want to do it. They don't want to go against the U.S. immigration. And my mother was so devastated. So she was using her money. She was working as a home method to hire lawyers, and even the lawyers were just making fun of me. And some of them wouldn't show up in court. So my mother had a heart attack. I had a high blood pressure while my case was going on in court. Because the lawyers wouldn't help her. She'd be walking from law office to law office. And they'll tell her, no, a black male, I was a male back then, so the black male standing chance against the feds. So when the feds got you, they got something on you. And they were telling my mother was like, this is not a criminal case, it's a civil case. And they're like, it doesn't matter. She said when the feds don't just charge you. This is also when you are with your boy on at the JFK and they arrested your boy, they didn't arrest you, something is wrong. They must have, they must have a solid case against your boy. And my mother was like, no, it's not my boy, that's my child for real. She's like, yeah, the feds won't arrest your boy if they don't think they have a good case. So this is the Fed, the United States of America, they're a big machine, they don't play. And the lawyers are telling her, look, I remember saying the Family Unification Act, and also a Congress person was helping us because my mother sent her daughter. My mother took her daughters to Nigeria in the 1980s, and she bought a plane ticket, here in America, and went to Nigeria in the 1980s to come and get me, to come to America because she had left me in Nigeria briefly. So she bought a Nigeria Airways plane ticket, return trip, and took her daughters along with her to come to Nigeria to come get me. Because she didn't have anybody she could place her children with, she's from Nigeria. So when she got to Nigeria, and she was trying to return with me and her daughters, the Nigerian Airways told her our return ticket is no longer valid, that the government stole them, invalidated her return ticket, said there was a problem from the New York office. They issued the ticket out of sequence. So they were supposed to take the New York Lagos ticket from her. They took the Lagos New York flight from her. They said because of that, they said they're not going to issue a refund, and our ticket is now invalidated and stuff. So my mother was trying that she couldn't come with me to America in 1988 like she wanted to. So our daughter started beating her up in Nigeria, that she lied, she's a scammer, that she lied to them because her daughter didn't want to come back to Nigeria with her. But she tried to place that with her brother in Canada, but I guess his wife wasn't really with it. So her brother said no, send our child back to her. Said it's not gonna work. My mother said he told her that as an American citizen, her daughter Bolanle, because that one was really adamant, didn't want to go to Nigeria at all. They didn't really like Nigeria. And so our brother told her that since that Bolanle is an American citizen, he said, my mother said that brother lied to her. He said since our daughter is an American citizen, she wouldn't qualify for free public school in Canada, and they found out a school that they were going to be charging $10,000 a year. At that time, my mother just won lawsuit money over lead poison. So my mother was like, maybe she thought her brother was just trying to eat her money, and she found it hard to believe that public schools in Canada wouldn't let an American citizen go to school for free. And she was like, there's universal education in America, and she wasn't sure that Canada doesn't have universal education, free education for everybody. Even if you're an immigrant, you can come to public school for free. So the brother said, no, the only way your daughter, my mother's daughter, Bolani, can stay in Canada with them temporarily was to enroll her in a $10,000 a semester school or a year of school. My mother was like, no, that's just too expensive. Even though she had just won lawsuit money for lead poisoning in America, the line of poisoning, she was like, no, she'd rather keep the money and take our daughter to Nigeria briefly and to get me and come back here with the daughter. So when they arrived in Nigeria and the daughter were ready to come back to America, and she broke the news to them that look, the Nigerian government invalidated the ticket. They were like, it's a lie, you're a scammer, and they would beat my mother up, and my mother found somebody in Pennsylvania, because her daughter used to go to camp when she was in New York. She paid money for them to go to camp in Pennsylvania. She had just won lots of money she was spending on the children. She said she would take them to stores, buy them expensive clothing, because they were making fun of her daughter, because some of them have a Nigerian accent and stuff. So she always has to buy expensive clothing for them, so the little kids would like them in the Bronx where they were living. So a lot of people don't like Africans and stuff. So she always has to buy the most expensive clothing for them, expensive shoes. And they came to Nigeria with those expensive clothing, and the people in Nigeria were like wild and dazzled and would treat them so good. Like, what are these children? They wear very expensive clothing that they used to wear in New York. and the whole New York was moving wild by them because my mother just won lawsuit money, and she was spending all this money on them, and so she was, spoiling them, like spoiled brat. And so when they came to Nigeria, they were really fed up, like, the level they were dealing with in Nigeria was like substandard to them, because my mother left the money in American bank. She didn't want to take it to Nigeria because she was just going to Nigeria in the 1980s briefly to pick me up because she had found a school she wanted to put me in Long Island and stuff. Because, so long story short, so our daughters, so my mother borrowed money from the American embassy because our daughters had a U.S. passport, so the American embassy said they're the only ones the American government will borrow money to. But my mother didn't have a U.S. passport. I didn't have a U.S. passport. So my mother borrowed money from the U.S. embassy to have the kids return to stay with their camps. The white people that used to go to camp with in Pennsylvania. And as soon as the US arrived from Nigeria, they beat up the white people. The white people had to put them in prison, so they were out of control also. So that Bologna eventually killed my mother, 2015. And so my mother said that Bologna never forgave her, but she returned to Nigeria and she got her Nigerian accent back. When she came back to America, so the white kids were making fun of her in school, and now she's moving with a narcotic gang, like a narco-terrorism gang. So I believe that narcotic gang, I always see that Bologna here also. She always dressed very expensive. Anywhere I'm at, I believe she's now an FBI informant. So they're giving her my surveillance information. So anytime I talk about her, within 2 or 3 days she'll come in. I just walk past her, I said, begging for money, I won't give any money. Then the black American guys that sell stuff think I'm going to kill you, nigga, and they'll just jump for no reason. So this NYPD and the FBI, so please, the legal aid lawyer, I can't talk too much because the ticket vendors for the Statue of Liberty, they'll soon be here, and they always try to knock me down. So I got to flee in terror, and I need to beg for money so that before they get here. So please, legal aid lawyer, what you observe with the NYPD doing this is real, and your client dying the next day. I give you courage because any other person would have kept quiet because you could have been sued. There's a terrorism unit of the NYPD killing people. My son in Uganda dead. They choked me in 2019. So please join with me to file a class action lawsuit. I know they will try to lure you with bribery, and with some of the bribery they're telling people now is like they're telling people not to help me or to act like they're going to help me and just try to lure me into some romance. And then the police will kill me eventually, and the person will inherit the money. Please don't join their clique. So a lot of lawyers don't want to help me, or they'll start acting funny, they start acting funny and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not looking for a marriage to a lawyer. I'm not looking to adopt a child with a lawyer, So they're inside, and I believe they're setting these people up. The rogue police and rogue FBI agent telling lawyers that the only way they can help me is to marry me first, and eventually the police will kill me mistakenly, quote unquote mistakenly, and then if you're married to somebody, the person will inherit your estate. Because I'm a gay transsexual Nigerian, I don't have a child, I don't have my mother's dead, my father is dead. So if I'm married now, the partner, if I'm killed, the partner will inherit everything. Or so they've been trying to lure me into child adoption also, because there's a law in America called parentage by estoppel. So if you have little kids call me dada mama, I say I'm not your dada mama. So if you die and somebody goes to court and claim you had a relationship with a child, the court would, in the interest of justice and for the child's welfare, would then formalize it that maybe you had intended to adopt that person's child, and then that person, they'll formalize it, and that child will now inherit all your estate. So the other parents of that child will now control all your money. So it's called being a Karen, where this NYPD is setting people like me up to kill, and then they believe that dead people tell even there's a black American radio host, Charlemagne. I always see him on the street, but he wouldn't talk to me. I say, hi sir, can you please help me? I'm just walking from. But but he always talks about my case on his radio, but he tries to make it look like it's just Nando. And one of the things he would say is say Wednesday's hump day, hoo, get your hump on, and people on Wednesday will try to be rubbing their body on me. Today's a Wednesday, I was born on a Wednesday, July 8th, 1981. And then he starts saying, Nobody believes the truth if you can make a lie sound so interesting. You know, so no, and you always say that. So nobody believes the truth, and I always see him around me and stuff. You know, and on his radio show yesterday, and he was saying, something's gonna happen. It's too, I swear, so, like it's referencing this NYPD terrorist gang with the FBI. It was saying somebody's gonna get killed soon, so you must as well go down, exploding. So go down, explode. And I think on his radio show yesterday, and he had a Nigerian called Tiwa Savage. She's a Nigerian, and he was mispronouncing her name, and people were noticing on the comment section. So what her name is Tiwa Savage, it was called a Tiawa. So people sometimes say, I try to fake an American accent. I always try to. They say, because sometimes I live in America, and sometimes even when I call Nigerian names, sometimes, it's very hard for me sometimes to call it properly. Like my name, I call it Olabopo, because, each time I say my name the Nigerian way, people in America can't really say the Nigerian way, say, oh, your name is Olabopo. So I got used to calling my name Olabopo, and I guess that's a bad thing because people mispronounce African names on purpose, so I believe this Charlemagne, it was mispronouncing this Tiwa Savage name. I was calling it Tiawa, and people were like, come on, everybody can put, and people in the comment section, like, what is going on with this Charlemagne? So I think he was trying to send me a hint, and on his radio show, he said it, he said, now it's too late, it's going to happen, you might as well go down exploding. So I guess he's trying to tell me, you better contact everybody that can save your life, you're going to die, like you liquid lawyers, like you saw the NYPD woman did like this to your client, and the next day your client are dropped there. So they're hiring a narco terrorist gang that my mother's daughter works for. I always see her here. It's hiring black Americans that work for the Statue of Liberty. One of them works for, he wears a green jersey. The Nigerian flag is green, white, green, and now NYPD has painted the police vans green, white, green. I'm like, why are they painting Nigerians their van as green, white, green? They have new NYPD. As soon as Sakadam became mayor, they painted their police cars green, white, green. And they said the green, white, green traditionally is what they use in funeral for dead police. So I guess, they feel civil activists like me by talking bad about the NYPD is causing people to want to kill NYPD, and so I guess to taunt Nigeria, they started painting their van now green, white, green. As soon as Eric Garden became mayor, and then Eric Garden, said they should bring back the killer police unit of the NYPD called the Quality of Life Policing on July 2.0, July 20. This year they brought them back and they've been harassing people. They said there's a black American actor. He put his feet up on the MTA Metro North Station train, and they said the police came immediately and arrested him in handcuffs. Said because he had his feet up on the chair. So they have the new MTA police unit. They always try to barge into me, have people barge into me. In the bathroom, I just came out of the bathroom, so please, liquid lawyer, I believe your name is Thomas. I don't remember your name, but you said you observed the NYPD civil officer did like this to your client, and your client died the next day. They denied your client's medical, because your client was sickly. I said they denied your client's medical treatment. So as soon as I came out of the bathroom, this woman, she was like a special woman, she tried to barge into me. She was a janitor. So I believe I've been put under a satellite camera since my immigration case. And anytime I try to use the bathroom, they always try to start a fight with me and invite the police, the janitors and everything. So I guess she thanked me on purpose as soon as I was walking out, and she started trying to bump into me. To make it look like I'm a transsexual, I'm a freak, I'm trying to embrace women in the bathroom. I guess somebody can kill me in the bathroom. Either she thanked me, because she always sits in front of the bathroom, so they know I will first flush. I always flush multiple times. Because sometimes I use a lot of tissue paper. I have diarrhea, so I have loose bowel. I'm so sorry to be so graphic. So I have loose bowels, so I need a lot of tissue paper to wipe clean, and you know, so I always flush multiple times. So I was like the only one in the bathroom. So this is my anti-diarrhea pills. So I was the only one in the bathroom. So she must have observed me. I was flushing multiple times. That's the sign I'm about to come out. Then after I flush multiple times, I will go to the sink, wash my hand, and so they can time me. When I'm about to come out, or either they have a satellite camera, they'll use it to watch me. And as soon as I was coming out of the bathroom door, I should also try to bump into. They always give me trouble anytime I try to use the bathroom. You know, you know, Even as I arrived from the out train, I noticed a black American MTA worker was standing around me, and when I was coming up, she was coming up with me. So the MTA said their workers should be observing homeless for signs of mental illness, and snitch called the police to come and arrest them. So someone like me, they still on my clean clothing, so this I kind of so one of the signs is to watch if the person's clothes is clean. I was listening to ABC radio some days ago, and since I'm under FBI surveillance, the owner of ABC radio, Kasmatidis, is Trump's friend. So it's like they could listen to whatever I'm listening to by the FBI when I'm listening to the radio with my earphone, because I always have my phone with me. So I was listening like a day ago at night time, and this guy Lionel is a lawyer. He works on ABC radio Monday to Friday, 1 a.m. to like 5 a.m. And all of a sudden, he was saying the same thing also, that somebody's going to die soon. Somebody's going to die soon and stuff like that. There's somebody called from Jersey. He said his name is Dirty Red. It's like normally people use their real name when they call a radio station, and sometimes they will hang up on them if they give a fake name. So this guy said his name is Dirty Red. And I noticed before I listened to that radio station, I always observe my clothing for any signs of dirt. And I was looking at my clothes before I was listening to that radio station. I was saying,